Hello and welcome to another episode of Goa 365 Story Behind the Story. This is another episode on agriculture. We have been doing a lot of episodes on agriculture earlier, and today with us is Danika Dias, a entrepreneur and a budding agriculturist, and with us also is Miguel Braganza, who is an agriculturist, former deputy director of agriculture. Welcome to our show, Danika, Miguel. So I would like Miguel to introduce Danika to our audience.
Danika is a girl about whom I first heard before she joined the college. She was very interested in joining agriculture course and was trying to find out the details. And one thing that struck me about Danika is she's got a long name like I have.
Really?
It's quite a long name. She uses Danika Dias, but it's quite a long name.
What is her name?
Yes, yeah. She will tell you after some time. And then the next I met her is she was a part of the volleyball team, the women's volleyball team of the college for the first time, participating in the Intercollegiate of Goa University, and they went up to the semi-finals. On debut, that's quite an achievement. With her seniors, she was playing also over there and a good player. And she's got the advantage of height, which the others did not have. So it was good for everyone that they had a tall player in the team. Later on, I met her when we had gone to Kurtori to do the transplanting, which Father George Quadros was doing, 1 lakh square meters in a day. And there she was actually driving the transplanter machine. So I was quite amazed that a girl who had not yet graduated, not yet passed out from college, was doing it. And she was doing it very well, keeping a very straight line of transplanting. And that's impressive. And much later, towards the end of the day, she mentioned to me that she was the niece of someone I knew. And then I knew all the other connections to that name.
Typical Goa.
Yeah, but as a person, for the last 3.5 years, I did not know that she had a connection up north and that I knew most of her mother's side of the family. So that's Danika, very enthusiastic, rides her own two-wheeler and four-wheeler, drives the transplanter, and very enthusiastic about growing plants. Already she's on Instagram marketing things that she's making. So she's already an entrepreneur before leaving college.
Thanks Miguel. And I would like to ask you one thing, Danika. Now Miguel has been speaking about this transplanter bit. So could you give us some details about that transplanting? It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so we were actually transplanting Mr. Oscar Gonsalves field here. He's my contact farmer. I'll tell you what is contact farmer. We have this course in 4th year, that's the RAVE, Rural Agriculture Work Experience Program, where we are usually placed in a village and we have to do demonstrations for the farmers of that village, particular village. But this time, because of COVID, we had to choose like our own village and do demonstrations and all in that village. Okay, on different things like grafting, budding, then mushroom production, different things like that. So I had chosen Mr. Oscar Gonsalves from Majorda for the contact farmer, and he said, okay, we are transplanting our field, you can come over. So then when I went for transplanting, I met Father George, and he asked me like what I'm doing, and I told him I'm studying, doing my agriculture. So he said like, oh, so you know to drive? I said, yeah, I know. Like, you would like to drive the transplanter? I said, I don't know anything about the transplanter. I never operated any. I've not even operated a tractor or thing. So I said, I don't know. If you teach me, I'll do it. So he said, okay, come. So he took me to the field with him, and he gave me to operate the transplanter. He gave me to drive the transplanter. He showed me how it works, how it has to be operated, and it looked easy. So I went for it. And yeah, that's how I learned to drive the transplanter, because Father George gave me the opportunity for it.
Yeah, wow, that's really good. But tell me, Danika, how did you get into gardening? Did you like gardening right from the beginning? Like, did you start it at home, your mother, father, whatever? How did you actually get into gardening and agriculture and
So my father is a farmer. We have like ancestral lands and all. And Papa was even awarded in 1990 the best farmer in South Goa. So from childhood, I've been going to fields, going to the farm, seeing Papa pluck coconuts. We also have a dairy shed. So yeah, so that time it was like looking very easy doing all these things and all, because that time we had laborers and all. Now since there's a lot of problem because of laborers, you don't get laborers and all. Yeah, we had to get to the ground and do everything, like even Papa and all. Like you don't get pluckers now. So everything, even dairy and all. Sometimes there's no laborer. Papa himself used to do the milking and all. So I used to go and help Papa. So that's how. Then after at home, we used to grow some vegetables, and Papa used to keep saying, "Arey, this thing rate is gone so high and all." So that's when, like it like some that took our interest. Like, why don't we only start growing some few vegetables and all on a small scale? So and Papa started. So it like worked out like nice. The vegetables we got for a season, like, so Papa was shocked. He was like, wow, like we'll grow many things. So we grew brinjal, cucumber, then bitter gourd, all these things we tried at home, and we got a nice produce. So now we grow at home, and that's how I thought, like, I wanted to go in the agriculture, because I knew that would, like, be a great, there's good scope in it, like. So
but
that's why I went.
do you grow this whatever these vegetables and all you grow? Do you grow it for home, or do you grow it? Do you all commercially also?
No, only for home, and yeah, we do give us some relatives and all. Papa distributes, but
Okay.
we don't sell.
So you don't.
Yeah.
It's not. You don't sell it out. You don't.
No, we don't sell. We only distribute, like, to our relatives and
Oh.
all. We have not started it commercially selling and all.
Do you intend to?
Yeah, maybe in future.
Yeah. Okay, Miguel. Now this is a nice nice thing, because like there are a lot of Goans who have they have land, but no, hardly anybody is actually going and doing some sort of thing. So do you think that this is a bit of a future, especially since we get lot of these vegetables from outside the state, as well as you have these these genetically modified vegetables which are coming from there, so we don't know from where they're coming. So what do you think? Do you think this is a this type of community farming, this type of people getting is a good thing, is the future of Goa, for Goa?
Yeah, this has a very great scope in Goa, especially now that people know what kind of chemicals are used to make the vegetables look nice, to make them look greener, to make them look shining. All sorts of chemicals are used, and if you go to Belgaum or you go to Hassan, you have people who grow vegetables. They say this area is for Goa and this is for our own consumption. The one which is coming to Goa is pretty looking, but it's pretty poisonous.
Really?
And what they eat is not poisonous. It doesn't look so good, but it's a better crop.
Really?
Now, yes.
That happens?
That happens. Commercially, it's happening all the time. Either it's polished, or it's colored, or it is waxed to make it look good. And many of those chemicals in that are harmful to us. So if there are people growing here in Goa, there's definitely demand. Now the Horticulture Corporation buys some of the vegetables, and that has increased the production in Goa because there is a market. There was some problem some time back. They said you can't bring cucumbers which are more than 110 grams and all these things. So we are looking at more people setting up their own marketing system also. WhatsApp is there now. Facebook is there. You can market on all these things. Instagram. In fact, Danika is already using Instagram to market her plants, ornamental plants, and she can easily shift from plants to add on vegetables to that, or maybe even peas and beans and such things. So once you have that entrepreneurship spirit, then lots of things are possible. Some of our seniors have already set up business in making panchagavya, in making vermicompost, in making coco peat, in having these biological control measures, which they are marketing, and they also do manuring of people's coconut gardens. Last month they were doing, and they also do gardens, ornamental gardens, vegetable gardens for others on turnkey basis. So there is a great scope for even Danika to get into that, because in each area there is demand. and we need to get into it.
Yeah, but okay, now we are talking about these vegetables and all. Now, this is one thing that has come. Now, you are into ornamental plants and all that. Tanika, could you give us some details exactly what this is about?
Yeah, so so as a side of like part-time job, like I thought of selling some plants. Like I saw people like posting about the succulents and cactus mostly. Like people potting them and like giving them for birthday gifts and all. And they could even be used on office tables and all if you have seen those small succulents and cactus. And they require very less maintenance and all. So I thought, why don't I do that? Because I saw many people like looking out for that. Now I've never seen them before in the market, but now it's been like a trend. I see many people buying that and posting pictures of it and all. So I said, why don't I start it up? Like I do something. So I used to like from in our garden we have some cactus. So I used to pot them and sell them, and also succulents. So succulents are the small plants which have thick leaves which store water. You don't need to water them daily and all. Twice a week you can just water them and they'll stay. You have to just sprinkle water, not even like water them and all. So I thought of selling them. So I started in Feb this year, and I had online classes that time. Soon in April we started with offline in March, April. So I had a little tough time then because when I used to get orders, I had to deliver them and all. And I had to go like college also. I had to see side by side. So after coming from college on weekends, I used to do the delivery of those plants, deliver them to the people. So then so now it's going on slow, but the market is slow for now. After this COVID thing, I couldn't deliver. It was the second wave was like a turning point there. Like,
yeah, it was bad. Yes, correct. But then all this thing, whatever you are starting, this basically is you have to do it yourself. You can't get people to help you. There is mechanization can't be used, or what is the scene? You have to actually do the work yourself. And most of these things that you are starting, you want to start.
Yeah, but now it's a small scale. But later, if I want to go about a big scale thing, doing a nursery and selling, then I need people to do all these things. Now it's like few around 50, 60 plants I pot and I sell them. So if you're doing it like on a big scale, you need people to do. And those succulents also, they are very meaning in rainy season and all, mostly because moisture and all, soon they get spoiled. Like there's a fungus growth on them and all that. So you have to take most care like during this monsoon season. During the summer and all, it's fine.
Okay.
So
what about dairy now? Do you all have a dairy still? You run the dairy?
Yeah. We still have a dairy and 10 heads. There are like 4-5 cows and 2 buffaloes.
Okay.
And the are calves.
Okay. Miguel, now basically what Danika is telling us that she has a mixed farm sort of, no? She has a dairy, then she's doing some ornamental and does it make sense like this? I'm not talking about, I'm talking about general in Goa. If you have a little bit of land, couple of acres, would this is a very good way of going about things? Would it make sense?
Generally, this holistic farming is very good, and especially if you're going organic, then if you have dairy head, it's beneficial. You can make your own Amrut Pani, you can make your own Jivamrut, Bijamrut, Panchagavya you can make at home. Most of your plant protection you can do with cow's urine. People think that this is some obscure thing, but it's not. It's been tested, validated, and it works good. With Panchagavya, we have seen that even things like cucumbers and watermelons and pumpkins, where you don't get female flowers, you give it a spray of Panchagavya, you get more of female flowers and remaining. So, and female flower means you're getting the fruit. So these things work. If you have a dairy, these things become easier. Plus, you have organic manure to put for your field. To make your compost, you have cow dung as a starter. You don't have to bring starter material, EM or anything. So that's useful. And all your waste which is there, the cows can eat. In fact, in Goa conditions, we should go back to piggery. That also has a great market, great demand, and uses waste food which is there. and it becomes very efficient. So you have vegetables, you have piggery, you have dairy, you have all the advantages where your one waste of your leaves become food for the cattle and their waste becomes food for the plants. So you have a nice system in which you can grow, and if you're already used to maintaining cows is one thing, it's difficult because you have to look after the cow, especially milking season. It has to be milked twice a day. You can't say, okay, today I'm going for a party, so I will milk tomorrow. That doesn't come. It calls for dedication, and either you have to do it yourself or you have to have staff who will handle it for you. So it's very good to have, but there are of course the negative side that it requires your 24/7 dedication there. So that's something that would be very nice to do, but not everybody's cup of tea. Dhanika's got exposure to it from childhood. That's an advantage.
What about the mechanization in this sort of a thing? Plus fodder, like a lot of people when they go in commercial dairy, they talk about growing the fodder for the dairy or for goats or whatever.
Yeah, you have to do, because if you're going to buy your fodder, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Okay.
So having fodder, having your maize, or having your CO5 or CO7 is something that's beneficial, and you can use again your cow dung manure to raise your fodder crop. And that's something that she has learnt also in her animal sciences courses. So she has that advantage over the other farmers who don't have a background in agriculture, that she has learnt. Now doing it practically is of course a different cup of tea on a scale and at your own, and to make profit out of it is not what you learn in college, but that she will learn on the job.
Fair enough. So there is a lot of scope, there is a lot of there is a big future from what I can say, that now she's doing it on a small scale, but there is a lot of scope and future in this type of agriculture, which probably in this COVID times has probably given us more focus. You feel food is the way, and Goa should the government and everybody should concentrate on getting more and more people into this. Miguel, now you've been in the government, you've been in the department.
Yeah, there is more focus on that, and I think perhaps Dhanika will be able to tell us something about her Rave experience dealing with the farmer, his economics, his priorities and his needs, and how they can help to make it better.
So, for Rave, I learned a lot of things. Like many farmers, they use this some methods what we never learnt in college. After coming for Rave, like they told us about this, even this neem coated urea, doing the balls thing with mud balls. They do a mud ball and they put urea in for the slow release of urea. So these things and all, we didn't know it before. Like after looking at the farmers practice it and all, I've seen even the other this what they do, like transplanting and all. Now that we have transplanters, but they do it manually. Like we can help them do better because like the technology has changed over a period of time. But there are some things that we also learn from them. What we never learned.
No, but what would you, how would you like what now you know how they work, so what would you change, or what you would do better than what they are doing right now with your study and with the technology that you have access to?
So see, still people, they are they transplant manually. They think it is transplanter and all is not needed and all. Like they have this thing. They say like no, the transplanter, if the transplanter transplants, they'll get less yield and all. They believe in that, but it's not like that. With the transplanter and all, the yield increases.
That's for paddy.
Yeah, that's a paddy. So so that's one thing about the technology, which will help them. Then
what else would you think that your studies and this would help a general farming? What would be the thing?
The even seed treatments and all, they don't do usually. They just they directly put the seeds for soaking and all, and they sprout it. But like there are treatments where you can remove the chaffy seeds out, and only the good ones they can. There are many seed treatments. There's brine solution treatment and the other rhizobium treatment for cowpea. So they don't know about that. So we showed them for our Rave program and all, and they like said this will be helpful for us and all. The feedback was good for that.
Miguel, now this economics also of farming and the profit margin that they study in their college, that is something that our local farmers, I don't think, are much aware of this economics. Maybe
Yeah,
you
they have agriculture economics course, how to do costing and management.
basically make money out of agriculture
Yeah,
and farming.
Because if you're going into any profession, finally you're working to feed your family,
Absolutely.
or to earn a living, buy a car maybe, make your house better.
Car for sure. Maybe
so-
today is not an option. I think.
So if you're not making money, then why are you working?
That's my point.
It is not a hobby.
That's my point.
So anybody, even when we tell a person that when he's shifting from chemical farming to organic farming, he must learn organic farming first. So that when he shifts, he should not make a loss. He has to make more profit. Otherwise, why shift? You have to shift only when it's better. No one likes to go into a worse condition than he or she was before. So costing is very important to learn. Also, cost cutting measures like this. You use rhizobium culture, you don't need to use urea. Then you're getting a good crop with less fertilizer input. And if your soil is enriched, then in your next crop you have to use less of urea for your rice crop. Traditionally, we have been doing it alsando after rice, and then again you get rice, and again you plant alsando, and the soil is enriched. But not all farmers do it. So popularizing that, planting of pulses. And planting of pulses along with rhizobium, then it's a still bigger advantage and more profit. And now also there is cold storage come up in Verna. So if people can keep the alsando in the cold storage for 4 or 5 months, instead of getting 80 rupees or 90 rupees per kilo, they can get 180 or 200 rupees per kilo. It will cost them 2 rupees per kilo per month to keep. So even if they keep for 5 months, it's 10 rupees they're adding. 90 plus 10 is 100, and you're selling for 180, so you're making 80 rupees more. So all these things come when you learn and you have exposure.
But is rice still the future for Goa, or do we need to shift from paddy to something else? Because I think paddy you can get for half the rate of what we get in Goa in lots of parts, not only of the country, even in the world.
See,
what do you feel?
Rice you can get in a Russian shop if your BPL at 2 rupees. In the market you can get at 20 rupees. But people are buying rice at 75 rupees and 100 rupees a kilo. Kormut rice, unpolished, 75 and 100 rupees is the price of people selling it in Goa. If there's a foreigner selling it to foreigners in Goa, it is 150 rupees a kilo. So how you tap the market, that's very important, is your branding, your quality control, your marketing, all these things become important. It's something that Dhanika has learnt a little bit with her cacti and succulents, but when it's applied on a bigger scale to maybe vegetables to begin with, and maybe to rice, it's big money.
It can be big money, yes, absolutely. Yeah, but Dhanika, you have this agriculture in Goa as a future, and like a holistic, as Miguel calls it, the holistic type of farming also. Yes, absolutely. Dhanika, it was a pleasure having you on our show today, and the best of luck for you in your studies and in your business. And Miguel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
pleasure.
keep watching Goa 365.